Good morning, Keller Williams Prosperity. It's Matt and Mary Beth, along with our very special guest, Megan Wobenhorst. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, of course.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today, we will be covering tactic number 6, which is all about internet lead conversion and really capturing people online. So that's going to be the main focus of today. Our plan is to get through all of tactic 6. So let's dive in. I think one of the things that Mary Beth and we've been doing, starting off each chapter, is reading the little excerpt at the top, the little quote. And this one writes, "You can't expect to meet the challenges of today with yesterday's tools and expect to be in business tomorrow." And I think I thought it was interesting when I read that, because as I was reading this chapter, Mary Beth and Megan, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but you can almost see part of this book, because it was written in 2009, that some of the things that were written, like, we've evolved a lot now that there is KW Command and there are different platforms. Like 90% of this is still very valuable and very relevant, but there's that 10% where I was reading and I'm like, that's a little different now. What did you guys think as you were reading it?
Well, I would agree, and that was an aha that I had as I was rereading it at a time like this, to apply the foundational lessons that we learned in that time about lead generation and about how the internet was our friend. Whereas prior to that time in 08, 09, it wasn't relied on, and so now we're at a different time, because everybody now has a website, everybody has a Facebook page, most people do.
Yep.
Until now, I think everybody does. I've even seen some people come on from my church that I thought would never ever get on social media, and yet they understand how imperative it is to be able to connect with other human beings right now. So I think the message, 100%, 90% of it is absolutely still valid to this day. I think a bit of it has a mindset from 10 years ago. In that, and it's cool to see how we've evolved and how we could recognize it now. Imagine 10 years from now, we go through another shift of some sort, going, wow, that time felt like this time. Meg?
Well, and so now I want to shift it over to you, Megan. I have a question for you, because I think it's very important, before we dive into the actual lead generation model and its structure, in identifying. Mary Beth and I discussed expense management in tactic 2. And I think one of the things that Gary writes in the first couple pages here is that internet lead generation is a little bit different, because you're pulled in a lot of different directions, and it's really important to make sure that when you're putting money towards something, especially during a shift and especially towards internet lead generation, that you're holding it accountable. So how would you say that you and Kurt track the leads that you're getting, and also how you're holding that accountable to your expenses?
So basically that is my job. Kurt is really he's calling our database Sphere, because his Sphere is significantly larger than mine. So I kind of act as our internal ISA. So what happens is I run the Facebook ads, and I think that's kind of what's missing in tactic 6 here, is that that social media component that we just didn't really have 10 years ago. So I think once that's kind of dug into this chapter, it really starts to make more sense in today's world. But we run Facebook ads, and then the thing that we have to understand about the internet leads is that they're long-term nurtures. Every once in a while, you get that one person who's like, yeah, I want to buy right now. And you're like, oh, thank you. It's just silver platter. It doesn't happen that often. We've been doing a lot of internet leads, and it's very, very rare and few and far between. It generally takes about 6 months in our database of internet leads to actually convert them to any sort of appointment, or even the phone conversation of any sort of substance. So that's kind of how we have tracked it. So as soon as the lead comes in, it goes into our database, and then they are immediately put on a different drip campaign depending on how they came in. So if they came in through a command Facebook lead, then they're on a different drip campaign than if they were an open house sign in, because our sign in is electronic. That's on a different campaign. So I kind of consider them all internet leads, honestly, because we put them all in so that they then go back to our website, and then we track how many homes they look at
Yeah.
And if they're starting to really search 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, then that's when we really start hitting them. But you have to kind of let them chill for a little bit and let them look. And I think that's outlined pretty clearly in Tactic 6 is like, you have to let them sort of look around and then you come at them because they don't really want that salesy pitch. But that's kind of how we handle them. They come in, we watch them for a little bit. I mean, we reach out immediately. That's part of our drip campaign. But we would then watch them and then announce.
Well, no, and I love that you're saying there is that what I did hear in the middle of what you were saying is that you're also tracking, making sure that you're getting the appointments from it. So when we were talking last chapter and the chapter before about lead generation, which ultimately turns into lead conversion, and we're defining leads by actual appointments. And I think, you can get a lot of what some people call leads online, yet are they actually converting into that appointment? And on page 111, yeah, on page 111, it says the internet lead generation model encompasses 3 areas of focus: creating and maintaining an internet presence, sorry, I said that funny, lead generating for traffic, and converting those leads to appointments. So you kind of touched on those in terms of, diving into creating and maintaining that internet presence in terms of putting people on drip campaigns. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you is when we're on page 112, 113, we're talking about creating and maintaining that presence. How did you guys develop your website? How do you guys maintain it? And like when you guys started the website, did you just throw something up, or did you, I think one thing in here, they're talking about like kind of analysis paralysis. People they spend too much time trying to perfect the perfect website. And then they end up just not doing anything. So talking about your process and the evolution of how your website was created.
Yeah, our website, we kind of break it into a few categories. I mean, we have brand awareness, then we've got the actual search engine, and then we've got items of value. That's really kind of how we wanted our website to look, which is pretty dead on with what is in Tactic 6 here. Yep. But we have our branding kind of everywhere except on the search part. The search site, we kind of let them anonymously go through where they're not getting like bombarded with, what's your home value? What's, what we don't have any of that. So when we were looking for a platform for our website, those were our main components. We wanted brand awareness. We wanted it branded in certain places, but then we wanted to customize the search part so that it was not really that branded. Mm-hmm. But we also wanted to get that registration. So our tactic was by photo 3 of their first property, they are prompted to either sign in with Facebook, Google, or they can input their own info. And that has gotten us a lot of traction there. And then now it's following them around the website. So Command does all of those things. We haven't shifted our website over to Command yet because I like what we have. And our clients really like what we have. We're actually, after we kind of polled our current clients, they tend to search on our site actually more than they did on Zillow because they were finding that it was more accurate. That's exactly what Command does. That's what any good website with good IDX does. Zillow is not that. So we were trying to really get our clients off Zillow. So we had to provide enough value through the website to get them off of that site because I can't follow them around Zillow. I can follow them around my website. And then it gives me a really great dialogue when I'm calling saying, hey, did you see this property? Which I know they've already looked at 4 times because it's told me. Command also does the same thing. So I actually love that. I mean, Gary Keller's literally built the perfect website. Mm-hmm. It's not as customizable as a lot of people want. Our website's not super customized. It's just not. It was like whatever the shell was, we just threw it up. I didn't even care. And we kind of tweaked it as we've gone. But our website is exactly the same as the Command sites. You go in and it's just the search bar because that's all people care about. They just want to search.
Well, correct. And I think that that's actually very important because Josh Team at Family Reunion, he said on stage, he was like, a lot of people were like, well, but our agent information's not on there or this isn't there. And it's like, well, the buyers
they don't care.
They don't care. And they're just going there and I forget what page Gary talks about or in this section, but he does talk about how really buyers are only looking to search and they're looking for, items of value. And one thing I don't want to lose my train of thought that you had mentioned, because you said something that I thought was very important, and it's kind of, they touch on it later on in this chapter on page 130 and 131, which is about the 4 lead capture strategies. Mm-hmm. And you were saying that on your website, you let people click around to like 3 pages, and then they're prompted.
Photo 3. Yep, photo 3.
Right. So if we're looking
usually by the time they get to kitchen or bathroom, it's usually
okay.
3.
No, that's important. So when we're looking at page 130, which is the 4 capture strategies, you've got the upfront strategy, which is where the second you go on the page, you have to register. You've got pre-results, which is where visitors can enter criteria, but they must register before results are displayed. So before they get information, they'd have to actually enter something. Limited results, and then open search with drip. And one of the things that's interesting, so it says more people are given the opportunity to register upfront, while fewer people are serious enough to want to save their searches or get email notifications. So what it's saying is the more restrictive you are, the more registrations you're going to get, yet the less people you're going to actually convert into an appointment. Whereas the less restrictive you are, the less registrations you're going to get, yet the more appointments you're going to get. So I just want to see, are you seeing that play out on your website where you're saying they're clicking the 3 things and they have to register? What are you experiencing with that?
We get a ton of registrations that way. I think especially right now, our numbers have like shot through the roof right now, just because everyone's home. So these numbers right now are a little skewed from what they normally are when we are allowed to be out and about. But really, like, we're hitting them from all sides with this. So again, we were looking for brand awareness. So they constantly see our brand, and so they're like, oh, they feel like they know us. Mm-hmm. And they don't, but they feel like they do because they've seen it on Facebook, they were getting our emails, and then, you know, that sort of a thing. So, because our Facebook and website, everything's all connected. Same command does the same thing. And so they follow them around the internet. So they're constantly being reinforced of the Wibbenhorst team, like I just keep saying it. So they feel like they know us. So by the time they get to our website and they get to that 3rd photo, they're like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah. Even if they put in their junk email, it's totally fine. And then we can really start nurturing that lead, because we don't really consider them leads until we've actually had some sort of contact or they responded to something. Then we're like, okay, now we consider them, like, we put them then into a lead. Other ones we just kind of call them registrations, like they're just people that have come through.
So question for you. So one of the things we talk about in the middle of the section where it says lead generate for traffic and ultimately converting them into leads. One of the things that, and I think this is critical, because I'll go into, you know, I have a profit share website that I'll touch on in a minute just to kind of talk about that and how that works. Yet the one thing that they stress is the importance of responding to an inquiry within, really as soon as possible, but at least within 24 minutes. So talk to me about what how do you streamline, like when somebody goes on your website, they register, and you get the email notification in your inbox that says Matt Billheimer has registered on your site. Walk us through that process of like what's next.
Yeah, so our system, they get an automatic text message from our system that I'll find the actual like verbiage of what it says, but it's something along the lines of like, thank you for registering on our site, and then something pretty generic. It's like, you know, do you have any questions? I don't know. It's not prompting them to really respond to anything. It's just kind of an introduction, and then about 5 minutes later they get an email that says, you know, I'm sure you're not ready to buy a home yet, because most of these are buyers that are registering. So, and if it's a seller, it goes into a different funnel. But for the buyers, it says, you know, I know you're not ready to buy a home yet, but is there anything that you're looking for specifically? So it's taking the pressure off of them immediately, so that I'm not telling them like, oh, you want to buy a house right now? Like, and then I feel, you know, they feel like kind of attacked. So we're slowly easing them into that. By saying, oh, I definitely know you're not ready yet, but if you were, what are you looking for? And if they open that, then that's a really good, because that's within 5 minutes. And then we will call just to try and connect with them. They generally don't answer, but they've gotten a text, an email, and a phone call within the first like 10 minutes.
Now, do you guys incorporate video? And I don't remember if it was you or if it was someone else, but one of the trainings I was at one time, and it might've been you who told me this, when they send a video, and it was a husband and wife, I don't know, maybe it was you, but this was it's the Wibbenhorst team, and like it makes it feel extra personal. So talk about how you incorporate video maybe in some of those email correspondences to make you guys feel more personal and
the videos are hard with the texting through the systems, because they won't let you attach a video except through an email. And I don't find that people actually open the videos via email. So so what we do is once they've actually started to search on the site, the people who are actively on it, because what tends to happen is they register and then they get a weekly email with the update, and our updates go out on Fridays. And so we see on Friday, like, oh wait, this person's they're on again, and they're looking at like 5 to 10 homes every time. Those are great numbers, and that's kind of what Gary was talking about at Family Reunion. Yeah, is that those numbers are so high. They're spending like 10 to 15 minutes on our site.
Yeah.
So that's huge. And then I will send the video of, it's literally me in my office. Kurt has his own videos too, but it's literally just me in my office being like, hi, I just want to put a face with a name. I'm Megan. We have a small team. Anything that you need, I'm here. I'm actually happy to send you our free homebuyer guide. Mm-hmm. Shoot me a text back if you want me to send that over to you. And that homebuyer guide is literally, it's just the process that I took off of Designs. Yep. And it's just a 2-page process, and we send that out, and we have a fancy cover sheet for it. It's a 2-page thing, something that's already created for you, and we just shoot that out to them. But I do send that video text, and the responses are better than if I just sent a regular like text.
So
can I add something?
Yeah.
Well, I'm listening to the conversation, and I just want to bring it back to, you got some very foundational pieces here that, regardless of whether it's online or it's in the mail or it's on a phone call or a text or whatever it is, Megan's talking about very basic 8x8 and cultivating and nurturing once you do get a live person and they're willing to give you their information. Yep. And so while I love to capture them, I want us to also think about, take the internet, take the computer out of it. When we walk into a store, let's say Macy's, you said something that was really important. The buyer really just wants to find their item. The seller just really wants to sell their house or know what the value of their house is. They don't care who's giving it to them. When you go into Macy's or Nordstrom's, or I just go to where I got to go, and if somebody's going to come at me and pounce on me, that's not my style. I won't receive that. But if you let me browse a little bit and you let me know that here's your credentials, here's how you could help. Oh, by the way, I see you're looking at black dresses. There's a whole bunch over there. Yep. And you leave me alone. I'm gonna now I want you to be a resource of mine. I may not need you right now, but next time I come back to the store, I may see you and I may need to ask you, right? Yep. So it's the online presence is your store, everybody. You have to make sure that your store is full of items of value for all the different behavioral styles to look at what they want to look at when they want to look at it. Yep. And then, Matt, to your point is, when the person raises their hand or shows up at the counter, somebody better be coming over to say, hi, how can I help you? Yep. And it doesn't necessarily need to be Megan that is the first person to say, hi, can I help you? It could be the girl that she hired for her front desk, which could be an automated message out. So taking the technical part out of it, going back to a lot of things that we've talked about in the first 5 tactics, the relationship, the communication, how you're handling yourself, and understanding how you would like to be touched. What would actually get you to the point that, hey, yeah, if I have a real estate need, I'm going to call them. Yeah. I'm going to call this person. I'm going to reach out this way. They had to have made it very easy for me to connect with them. So the most frustrating thing as a customer is, I was just doing this the other day, looking for a phone number to be able to get to somebody, and there's no phone number at all, right? So being accessible, having a really easy way to connect, and then having the items of value that I would want to see. I don't want to go in the store, you got me there, now I'm wooed, I'm there, and there's really not much here, and the customer service in the store is not that great. I'm out. I'm never coming back. Yeah. So I want us to also put just a consumer mindset on and think about what our messages need to be and how we need to touch.
Well, and to your point, you also said in there, you didn't say it in this exact words, but generationally, people like in younger age brackets may do things virtually. They don't want people like necessarily pounce on them, kind of like you're saying, like when you're at a store. So there is an element of, we've talked about this yesterday, know the behavioral style of the people that you're working with, or, that not everyone's going to want to be touched the same way. one thing I just wanted to share real quick, and we're going to do a first, Mary Beth. We'll see how this works on our shift calls. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. So we're going real high tech now. But what I want to show you is if you can see my screen. So I have a website specifically for profit sharing, specifically for recruiting. And so it's called realtorcareergrowth.com. Super simple. If someone clicks, as you scroll down, there's information about Keller Williams, marketing technology, culture, training and coaching. And then every so often I'll add like different articles, like this group who came over in February, updated that article. 11 tax deductions. I did that before. Now the tax deadline got extended, but different things like that. And then what I can do is in my dashboard on the back end, I can look and see all of my entries of who's filled out a form, when they did it. And then I don't have my Google Analytics login, but I can also just see people who clicked on the site. So whether they're from California, whether they were from Washington. And then what I do is I link everything to my LinkedIn. So any post that I do on that website, I link it directly in. So when they click on it from here, it's getting routed back to my career website. So then from there, to Megan's point, I have a drip campaign where I have like different articles and KW documents that, hey, I have that article on the Innovator's Dilemma, that Swanepoel article about all that. So I have that being dripped out. So, my point is, and I think what Megan's point too, and what you were just saying, Mary Beth, is that these aren't complicated, like they're simple drip campaigns, and the website's relatively simple looking, like because people don't want like all the bells and whistles. They just want, where can I search for home? What's the neighborhood like? What are the local, because that's what one thing that Gary wrote in there is that's what separates us from these national entities like a Zillow or a Realtor.com, is that they can have the national like information, but people want to know about Packanack Lake, or they want to know what schools are you going to if you live in Boonton? Are you going to Mountain Lakes? Or like there's some very real things that people care about that only you can get from a hyperlocal agent, which is what I think this chapter is kind of summing up, is that that's what separates the realtor, and what won't put us out of business is that people want the hyperlocal information.
Yeah, I have actually kind of side note, but also like totally in regards to internet. One of the panels I was at Family Reunion, this woman was saying, so a question like that, like if I live in Boonton, what high school does my kid go to? Mm-hmm. That information is very difficult to find, very difficult to find. Or if you want to know, like, where in Kinnelon is there a homeowners association with a pool? You can't find that information. So what she was saying was she actually hires, she was like, I'm not a writer. She actually hires a local like high school kid to write an article to post on her website that has that information in it, that is super hyper local. So that when you type into Google, where is there a pool in Kinnelon, it'll pop up, because if you type that into Google right now, you can't find it. We know it's in Stony Brook Highlands, but you can't find that information anywhere. So what she was doing was she was trying to come up with those ideas of like, what is super hyper local that if you Googled, you can't find the answer to. And so that I think was super valuable, because then all those people that are moving into or trying to move into Morris County or Passaic County, wherever, they're searching for those things, and now you're the resource. And now they're going back to your website. They're just going to the article, but then they're going to start clicking around. So it's just another way to capture people that I thought was brilliant.
And one thing I do want to just focus or touch base on, because we haven't really yet, and we had talked about this before we got on the call, talk to us about your Facebook advertising, because you had mentioned that through our Keller Williams command system, you were getting 30 plus leads per post that you were doing.
And they're coming out of $1 a lead.
Okay, talk to us about the quality of lead and all of that, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. When we talk about lead quality, it's like, again, these are all 6 to 12 month nurtures. I mean, everyone, especially right now, I mean, I feel like maybe a month ago, this is different. They're probably 3 to 6 month nurtures now, because everyone's just home and kind of bored. I mean, a lot of people they like to live vicariously through other people. So they like to look at homes. I mean, it's just.
But you're in the job of lead generation, lead capture, lead generation, lead capture.
And you have
to
be okay with that. Yep, you got to be okay with
Yeah.
that long-term nurture. I mean, we just closed a transaction that they came to our website 12 months prior, and then we finally got them to an appointment, and then closed them 3 months later. I mean, and so I mean that's a long process, but it was worth it because they've now referred us 3 other people. But so the Facebook leads, we've been just posting mostly to attract buyers, just through our command campaigns. We've been spending about $20 to $30 per campaign, and it's very, very simple. I think there's like 5 words on the whole ad. It's got our branding on it, and that is it. And it's something about like, you know, are you looking for a new home from the comfort of your couch? Or I don't know, something along those lines. Is very cheeky, and it works. And so we're getting 3 to 4 leads a day off of that. They're not great leads. I mean, we talk about percentages, right? So like you're talking about like less than 10% actually convert in the long run. But hey, that's like 3 to 4 leads in that one campaign. So, and we're getting people on the site.
But that's 3 to 4 good leads for $30. I mean,
exactly.
I think that's
way better than Zillow.
How about even a question if you were to put out, how much equity do I have in my home right now?
Yeah, it is significantly harder to get the sellers. Even right now, we're still struggling to try and attract. I haven't quite figured out the right wording yet for the campaign to get the sellers to actually sign up. The last 2 seller campaigns we ran, we had a lot of clicks, but no one actually registered, which that I feel like was a major.
Well, and tying it back to the message of the beginning of the chapter is all the efforts and energy that we put out, we have to measure it by how many appointments we set. Mm-hmm. So I want everybody to be careful with that. You can put out, you know, material but if you're not setting appointments, then you have to pivot a bit and understand maybe your message is off, maybe your audience is off, maybe your tactic is off. So
you have to shift in that, because like I said, we ran the seller campaign, it didn't work. I tried again, didn't work again. I've done so much research to try and figure out what is going to work to get the sellers, and I just don't know. I don't know that I found that yet. So when I figure it out, I'll let everybody know. But to attract buyers, and actually we've done some towards renters, like, you know, do you want to get out of your rental, something along those lines. And we've actually converted a few renters already that way, because they actually, with rates being super low and prices coming down, there's, you know, a little bit of a major shift for them, so they can afford a lot more. So
yeah, well, and I think to your point, just to tie it back into the end of the chapter, page 132 and 133, the last 2 pages of the chapter, Gary says, and you've hit this a lot, is just think of your website as one big open house. You're there to sell the house, and you're there to get leads. Most visitors aren't going to buy that house, but they're going to buy a house. So the truth is, these lead generation opportunities are only as good as your capture, connect, cultivate, and close system. So to your point, you know, you have to nurture them. It's all about your systems. It's, you know, it's not that they're going to buy that house or click on that, you know, ad that you're doing and all of a sudden be like, hey, I'm going to buy, miraculously, you have to have a system in place. And it sounds like, you know, you've shared that, and I appreciate you sharing that on this call. I think it's been incredible.
Yeah, the other thing too is just like they start to see you more. It's a brand awareness. That's the thing, especially if you're a super hyper local person. Like we tend to stay in Morris County. That's like our main hub. And we start to see those people that have registered on our website, and those names click when they're registering for our open house. So now we know, oh, hey, they've actually started coming to open houses. So now I'm writing that down, putting that in my database. Hey, they came to an open house. So now they've seen us in person. You see what I'm saying? So you have to slowly start to really build that. But if you're super hyper local, you'll be able to do that.
Well,
so 2 things is, one, what you're talking about. There's a book out there called The 7 Levels of Communication by Michael Meyer, and he gives a real great example of how to go super deep, 7 levels of communication till you get somebody to take action on your offer. And going back to just what I keep hearing in this book, though, is that everyone can, not everyone will.
Yep.
And so I encourage you to decide which side of the fence you'll be on in this time. Will you or will you not?
So on that note, so it's 11:30, and I think we covered a lot. We covered all of chapter 6, which is really all about online lead generation and capturing those leads. Tomorrow we're going to start tactic number 7. We're going to divide it up into 2 days because it's all about seller pricing strategies and pricing ahead of the market. So tomorrow we're going to do pages 135 to 147, which is all about pricing a home right, pricing persuasion, not chasing the market and price reductions. And then on Friday, we'll transition to pages 148 to 156, which is all about the challenges that you'll face when pricing in a shift, advice on taking overpriced listings, and the 7 maxims of pricing in a shifted market. So it's a lot to cover over the next 2 days to finish out the week, but we're ready for it. And again, thank you so much, Megan. I know you added a ton of value to this call, to our agents.
I'm inspired. I want to go do something.
Just do it. That's the biggest thing. Just do it. You're at home. I mean, you can't do anything other than call people and set up drip campaigns. So just do that.
I'm going to call you so you can set up drip campaigns.
Call Grace.
I'm just kidding. I'll call Grace.
If anyone has questions about this stuff, feel free to reach out to us. We'll kind of help walk you through. If you have questions on the campaigns or anything like that, just give us a call. We're happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you tomorrow at 11.
Goodbye.
Bye.